Hey everyone, welcome to our second session. I'm very pleased to have Elle Sojourner with us today. Hey Elle. So Elle is a soul celebrant and she can walk with you during your journey, sharing her gifts as a certified life cycle celebrant, teacher, author, and diviner. And love and rite of passage are her jam. She can
Yes.
support you with daily magic for regular folks with extraordinary souls, community soul circles, custom crafted ceremonies, divination, and alchemy to support initiations, dark nights of the soul, ascending through portals, illness as a spiritual teacher, healing ascension symptoms, and transmuting challenging energies into love. You can check out her website at spiritlifefire.com. And hey, Elle, how are you doing today?
I am great, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. So your topic today is going to be masculine and feminine um, energies in balance,
Yes.
dreaming and creating your life. So it sounds
Yes.
like a very large topic. I'm excited to dive into it.
Yes, me too. So it's really exciting for me because I'm seeing so many people in their spiritual journey, and even people who are kind of new to opening to this walk and curious about what else is there in this life other than the 3D. And what I have noticed is from a psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical perspective, many of us, when we hit hiccups and bumps, it is usually because we are leaning either towards masculine or feminine energy.
Hmm.
And so that imbalance is what can be the source of lessons, but it can also be a space where attention is being called to, sometimes focusing on what we feel, intuit, deep knowing, ancient knowing, grounded in something outside of just this physical realm. But then there are other times when we need to get off the couch and stop dreaming about it, and we need to be about it. And many of us have a propensity for leaning one way or the other. But what I have noticed about many people that I would consider successful, and when I say success, I tend to define it as someone who is living in alignment with their own path. They're following their direction. They are hitting benchmarks that are meaningful and resonate within themselves. So for some people, that could be financial. For others, it could be being in the public eye. It could be career based. But for others, it can be meaningful in your family, contributing to people's lives as a friend. It could be focusing on one's craft and really elevating the world with some sort of gift that is magical. So there's a lot of different terms of, or pathways, if you will, to success. But the people who tend to get there, they do come into mastery of using both this masculine and feminine space.
Wow, well said. I was wondering when you were speaking, when you kind of described this idea of the dreamer versus the doer.
Yes.
Um, so when we talk about being centered, I think that's a term that feels a little bit ambiguous to a lot of people. Like, what does that mean? And I'm getting the sense that maybe that's another way of saying balanced. It's just saying
Yeah.
centered.
Yes. And it's funny, I personally prefer the term centered because for me, balance, that word even, it kind of pulls out my inner striver and it
Mm.
makes me aim for something that always looks like 50-50. When in fact, to me, something being actually centered and balanced is more like an ebb and a flow. So you're 70 on one side and you're 30 on the other, and then it goes in the inverse. But it took me many decades in my life to understand that that magical day I have planned, where I am 50% masculine and 50% feminine in my doing, being, dreaming, creating, it kind of doesn't exist. You're kind of doing one and then you're responding in kind and even in inverse in the other energy. Like so you do one and then the other. And I think sometimes we have an unrealistic understanding of
Mm.
what balance is. So I really love that you brought forward the term centered because it really does to me speak more to the need to dance. One of my favorite sayings is dance left, dance right, just keep dancing.
Oh, I love that.
And that's kind of, for me, how I kind of visualize and even internalize the concept of being in masculine and feminine. And they're not mutually exclusive. There are times when I'm actually pulling down both of those energies in tandem. So you can be, especially in divining. So I like the term diviner because I get intuitive hits in a lot of different forms. So yes, I do tarot and oracle and things like that, but I also read clouds and I get connection with animals a great deal. And also I am prone to claircognizance where I just have knowing that is
Mhm.
not my own. And I'm aware of that, whether it's coming from ancestors, angels, guides, divine source. And in that space, when I'm divining, you would think I'm probably only in feminine energy, but I'm actually in feminine and masculine because I have to be able to be a conduit to share it. And the
Mhm.
sharing is the doing, and that is masculine. So, what has really informed my understanding of this topic is growing in my divination skills and being able to pull from feminine but deliver in masculine.
Wow, that was a really interesting. I've never heard it explained that way. Um,
And it's not easy.
well, I was about to say, so this idea of being conscious of what energies you're even pulling, I'll be honest, I'm kind of even a little stuck just on that, thinking
Yeah.
to myself, like, I don't know that I recognize in that way the masculine or feminine energy that I am exuding or holding back or working with or any of it.
Okay.
How do you recommend people start noticing even those energies that they're presenting, like whatever they're already doing? Like, how do you recognize
Yeah.
those things?
One of the ways, and again, I'm like everyone, I'm still growing, but one of the ways for me is if I am grounded in my body, if I'm grounded in the earth plane, in the 3D, and we all, I think, have different ways of grounding. I'm one of those people who can definitely just put their little toes in the dirt and the earth will hold me in a way. But coming into that body allows me to better understand what I'm feeling intuitively because
Mm,
I am prone to really floating away because my feminine energy for me is very big. Like I'm one of those people who could just stay in the clouds forever, and that feels very appropriate and happy. Yes, we share this in common, right?
yes.
So I need things to pull me down to that earth space so that I can actually deliver what is coming through. And a lot of times I feel it. If I am feminine and masculine in tandem, I will have the foresight even to ask, what am I feeling? What am I knowing? What am I connecting to? What is the
Mm,
intention for the message? Who is it to be delivered to? How is it to be delivered? And so it's almost like two tapes playing at the same time.
mm,
It pulls a great deal of energy, but feminine and masculine will support each other. But the
yes.
thing about all of that is I think it's that can be a little woo woo for some folks. Some folks are not moving in divination skills. We all, I think, have intuition. Everybody has it, but how they connect with it and then how they use it is different.
Mm,
So, example, corporate America, spent many years there. One of the things I noticed is there are some people who are just excellent at their job, whether it's being an accountant, working with numbers. I worked with IT folks. I worked with a lot of people who were doing, really hard skills. And one of the things that I noticed was some of them just have it. They just get it. They just know. They just have the right answer. They just know where to look for solutions. That
mm,
is actually intuition. They would probably never be convinced that that is intuition,
mm.
but people can have deep knowings without calling it intuition.
Yes.
They
It's
just
funny.
know.
And I'm gonna say it's funny you say that because that's actually how I feel about my financial advisor. That is just his thing, what he's here to do, what he understands. And I appreciate and respect that a lot because I think even a lot of people who have these really strong intuition skills doesn't mean that they choose to go into a career where they get to use them. And I think the people that are even unknowingly using those intuition skills, um, their greatest gift, right? Like
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And even like with your financial advisor, some people would say like they're in their zone of genius.
Mm,
When we recognize that somebody's in their gift, their zone of genius, something like that, to me, I interpret that as they are in their kind of divine intuitive gift and they've
mm,
somehow mastered how to bring that through in masculine energy.
mm,
Even like when we talk about, we're business owners. Sometimes business owners are great at coming up with the concept and the vision, but they may need a support staff to help them really bring it to fruition. And then
mm.
there are some people, all you have to do is say two sentences, and then a week later, they have created this masterpiece because some people are just really good at bringing puzzle pieces together and birthing things into existence.
Yes.
To me, some of us will lean one way or the other, but you need a little bit of both always.
Yes. And I want to bring back one more thing you said about just because as someone who I did not understand what it even meant to be grounded until like 4 years ago. Like that word, right? Grounded meant nothing. And I
Right.
just want to sort of reiterate what you said for anyone else who's feeling that way out there is that ultimately it just means being in your physical space and
Yes.
being connected to the 3D, which again, in these sort of spiritual communities, sometimes we even forget. I feel like that word has kind of lost meaning a little bit as to even what that means. And we hear about it. Oh, just go ground yourself. Well, okay. Like,
And it's very personal. Like, I
yeah.
think I've been on this path for a very long time, but for a long time, what I thought was grounding, eventually I came to understand was what was grounding for someone else.
Mm,
Like, I do love nature. I'm one of those people who is captivated by the crow and the clouds and the moon and I could just be in that all the time. But what I have learned is my grounding often is me needing to just come deeply back into my felt body sense.
mm,
That's not necessarily what everybody else needs to ground. Some people grounding is slowing their thoughts. Like some people, so it means something different for everyone. So when I think of grounding, it is, where does your being need to be able to connect with what is higher and what is also present?
mm,
And where we all need to go is different because we're all built and wired differently. Even
yes.
for me, something that my ancestors have been working with me on a bit is dancing is very grounding for me, but also singing. And initially, when I was getting those messages, I was thinking to myself, how could singing be grounding? Because aren't I in some sort of meta or doing? Like, how
Mm,
would that bring me more deeply? I would think that that would distract me, but it doesn't, because what I eventually came to understand, the way it works for me is when I'm singing, I'm actually not thinking. Singing pulls me into a flow state. And when I hit that flow state, then angels, ancestors, my higher self, everybody can come in and talk to me because I'm in no resistance.
yes. No resistance. I love that. And I'm glad you brought up singing because I was thinking as you were speaking earlier about grounding, I was thinking, well, for me, yeah, that's what I got to do. Like a lot of times also just to shift my energy um, so I'm not kind of holding on to things. Resistance, right? Everything boils down to flow and resistance. And that for me, I have a very free way, a very specific style, I will say also for myself, very specific style of singing, the way that the sounds come out. There's a very physical style of singing, and then there's sort of
Yeah.
the more classical style of singing, right? Which is just
Yes.
a different state to be in. So
Yeah.
I definitely encourage anybody out there to use your voice, use your words, use your body to figure out what works for you to be able to ground and to balance so that you have, I love this dance idea. Yes, dancing with
Yeah.
life, right? And being
Yeah.
able to just instead of freaking out as you're kind of leaning to one side, just being like, all right, we'll go the other way.
And let you flow the other way,
Yeah.
dance left, dance right. And the other
Yes.
thing too is even in using your voice, If it's not actual singing in like kind of the classical sense we think
Yeah.
of, chanting is also using your voice. Affirmation, mantra. Another one that I've explored that it is deeply intense for me is actually humming.
Mm,
There are times when I just want to get on the ground and sit on my little bataka moose and just rock and hum. And there's something about that particular, I'm getting chills even as I talk about it.
I can feel it.
The ancestors and the ancients really are able to find me and talk to me in that space. It may seem crazy to some people, but you just never know. Start humming, see what happens. You just never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And dancing is kind of that same thing too. Again, in my life, dancing is a way for me to better understand my emotions
Mm,
because I am a very kind of heady, cerebral person by nature, and I want to often be very logical about things. But sometimes the heart doesn't care about all of that. And so sometimes when I'm dancing, the truth of my feelings will find me because my body will
mm,
start to tell me and will really start to cultivate honest messages. So that's, I mean, and you don't have to dance like anyone else. Just do your dance. It doesn't have to be on the beat. It can be, sometimes I listen to the music I dance to that will bring it forward. Even I will laugh sometimes. Like Eminem, whatever, man. Like if that's what gets me there, that's what gets me there. Then other times it's something maybe, that we would think is more traditional, a more spiritual, softer, but just like anything that pulls your heart, pulls your attention, follow it, and then let it guide you to the masculine or the feminine. That's why I'm
mm,
in love with this topic we're working around about instead of always trying to reinvent oneself, really remaining exactly as you are and cultivating yourself as if you're polishing a diamond. You're already highly valuable and you're just kind of shining yourself and creating facets and dimension and allowing for light. And that masculine feminine dance, that balance, that is the space where we cultivate that.
mm. So one of the other things you talked about was creation, right? Around this balance and how this dance helps you to either manifest change or to help, shift the way that your life looks or feels to you. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that? Like once you kind of have a little bit more balance and grounding, like how does that manifest itself and like with your intention and desires?
So I love this question because we've talked about kind of those of us who are on a defined spiritual journey, those of us who are questing, if you will. But then there are plenty of people who they are literally in a space where they are waking up every morning and just trying to move through 24 hours the best way they can. It's
Yes.
not a big, King Arthur epic quest. They're like, I'm just trying to live my best life day to day, moment to moment, decision to decision. And
Yes.
the answer to your question, and for those folks, is if something feels like it is not true, if something feels like it is depleting you, if something feels like it's not in service to your life, if you find yourself questioning why this relationship, why this job, why do I live here, why am I concerned about this thing that doesn't make me feel great, that is everyday feminine energy. You are being called to an imbalance. You're being called to something that is not genuine to your truth. You're being called to something that may no longer be on your path. And that's not to say that it wasn't at one point. Sometimes it's a call to grow, it's a call to change, or it's a call for you to observe how you are interacting with experiences and people in your life. Because sometimes the shift needs to be our thoughts and goals about the things we interact with. So that's the feminine aspect is really sometimes for me, it takes great bravery for me to sometimes step back and say, this is okay, but it's not it.
Yes.
We sometimes will say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, sometimes broken is not visible, it's not tangible, but you can feel like something's broken. and then having the courage to honor that and fix it, people will be like, well, what are you doing? Sometimes we don't get social support for that.
Right.
So then the masculine, this is the change. So you've felt it, you've seen it, you've honored it. What do we do about it? And this is where, for me personally, being very cerebral by nature, sometimes the doing part is me trying to change everything around me, or me feeling that if I work harder, work faster, push more, that that will fix it. When in fact, sometimes the doing is being still.
Mm,
Sometimes the doing is creating boundaries. Sometimes the doing is allowing myself time to reflect and have some curiosity to go deeper into truth. So we have then this masculine part that can be a little bit toxic at times because it gets hyper.
mm,
And so again, balance. If you're doing in response to what you've intuited is still not creating peace, comfort, there's not an ebb, there's not a flow, it's not feeling purposeful, it's not igniting you, you're not feeling passionate about it, then you may be doing too much in the wrong direction or with too much intensity. Or, and I kind of stand on this one, many times we're doing externally when we really need to be doing internally. You can be doing masculine work at an intuitive, soul deep, heart space level. You can also be doing masculine work that heals the body, which then can cause the external to pivot. So there's like, it's kind of a big answer, but I just really want to turn people's attention to the truth of what the masculine energy and doing is that changes our lives. Sometimes changing our heart, changing our spirit, changing our thoughts, changing our truth is what then manifests in that external environment. Then we can change the job, change our family, change our relationship dynamics, change where we live, etc.
love that. And I have to bring up this book title, Change Yourself, Change the World.
Of
Which
course.
is Atisa Raison, who is
Of course.
one of our presenters too, right? And that I
So
think
good.
is exactly what you were preaching right now, is
Absolutely.
this idea that, everything comes back to you. So whether you're trying to shift things that feel external from you, even those external things are still part of you, right? And I think a lot of times you are totally correct. People get kind of pushing in one way, like, I want to get a promotion in my job. And so they start doing all these things to try to get this promotion in their job by doing more hours and working harder and staying longer and later and sacrificing other things in their life, when maybe there's a reason that promotion isn't coming. Maybe that's not really what is best for your purpose or best for you to see in that moment, like what you need.
Or maybe
Um,
it's not the right company,
yes.
right? Or maybe it is not, having been in human resources for 20 years, I've seen a lot of people get promotions and it actually would take them outside their zone of genius.
Yes.
It may not be the highest way for you to be serving and contributing in that promotion, if you will. And then I think too, in fairness, we can also look at it the other way. There are seasons in our life that should be prosperous and abundant. That wheel, that cycle of life is always turning. And so sometimes masculine energy says, have singular focus, make those six figures, buy that house, not because you want to brag about it and put it on your social feed, but because taking care of your finances, if you will, allows you to keep focusing on being of service.
Yes.
If taking care of debt frees you from the worry that pulls down your energy and keeps you from that divinity within you, make that money.
Yes.
So I always want to be clear about that too, because even like I use the term toxic when I was discussing masculinity, you can have toxic femininity too. And I'm sorry, but I have to say it. I have seen people who are like, I'm manifesting six figures. I'm manifesting $1 million. You have to do something. Like,
Yes.
even if you play the lotto, you got to give them $1 and scratch his ticket or something. Like, so like we have to be kind of careful that we don't get a little delulu about the fact that you do need an energetic investment. And so I always want to be careful when talking about masculine and feminine and 3D and 5D and 7D, 9D and beyond. Abundance and prosperity are not in opposition to this. It is also not in opposition to spirituality. And so we can have these high level goals about service and purpose and meaningful life and our journey, but we also have every right to be in the masculine of wanting to create a physical life for us that supports the other realm work too.
Absolutely. We do not have to have a vow of uh
Poverty. I'm
yeah,
not about that life. Like, I'm cranky when I'm hungry. I'm not going to do my best work then.
yeah, I hear that. So it looks like we're getting about to our time. I was wondering if you had any final thoughts you want to share with our audience.
Final thoughts. It is a journey. Just keep dancing.
Mm,
As we move into the holiday season, the next year, one of the things I'm really hoping for everyone is to be in a space where we are okay and accepting where we are in the moment, and we are peaceful about what has happened and hopeful for what is going to happen, but grateful for what is happening now.
mm.
I just wish that for everyone in their life, in their spirits, in their minds, in their bodies. And I have some supportive services that can help folks with that. I offer free soul circles. I also have some books out. I have some courses. I do one-on-one love alchemy sessions where I sit down and we have a conversation like you and I are having. It's very similar to that. And we use some divining, and then you bring in your higher self, and we really start together dancing with this masculine and feminine energy so that you can really get moving forward in a direction that feels true to you. And the place to find all of those things, to contact me, to find out what's going on with the soul circles, to get free guides and goodies that I have, you can go to spiritfirelife.com. You can go to my name, ellesojourner.com. And you can also go to tenfoldlove.com. On socials, I'm Elle Sojourner everywhere. So you can find me on TikTok, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, and just check out what I've got going on and see if any of these things will support you. And if you need deeper work, I'm here to support you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a wonderful topic, and
I
I
just love
know
talking
that
to you.
everybody enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.